I haven't explained yet why motion clarity is equal to the pixel visibility time. So the Blur Buster's law tells you that the motion clarity of a display cannot be better than the persistence of the display. It doesn't matter what technology it is. It doesn't matter if it's an impulse display, a sample and hold. It doesn't matter the marketing from these companies. If they are telling you otherwise, if they are advertising 1 millisecond MPRT is a sample and hold display with no motion blur reduction technique, so no backlight strobing, nothing, they are lying to you, okay? It's just impossible. It doesn't matter what feature they have. The persistence is the ultimate limiting factor, okay? And then you can have gray to gray limitations, and you can have camera motion blur, shutter speed, and all of that. So I was looking at this. Holy crap! $4,500. This is ridiculous, man. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is just legendary territory here. $4,500 for a CRT is just absolutely ludicrous, in my opinion. And I truly believe that people think that there's no way we can get the motion clarity of the CRTs anymore. Like, they are extinct. We will never get that motion clarity again, and they are just wrong, okay? So a CRT can have like 1 millisecond of persistence, okay? And I think that this one has like 4 milliseconds, by the way, based on what I've seen from other forums and reviews and all that. So there is no magic, okay? Persistence is all that matters. So how can you get 1 millisecond of persistence on a sample and hold display? Well, you need 1000 hertz, okay? So if you have 1000 hertz, you divide 1 and 1000, you multiply that by 1000 to get the result in milliseconds. So you have basically on 1000 hertz, you have 1000 frames in 1 second, okay? So you divide 1 and 1000, and then that result is in seconds. So then you multiply that by 1000. So you get the result in milliseconds, so you get 1 millisecond of persistence. So let's say that this CRT has 1 millisecond of persistence. If you have in the future a 1000 hertz display, which we will have by 2030, that's the roadmap for 1000 hertz displays, then you will get the same motion clarity. It's not gonna be any difference, okay? So let me explain you with my hands what's going on, okay? What happens in our brains, in our eyes? Why we see motion blur, okay? So let's say we have an object moving on the screen left to right, okay? And the object is doing this. Frame, stays, frame, okay? This is what is actually happening. But this is what we are trying to think is happening with our eyes and our brain. We think that the motion is actually smooth. So the motion is doing this. That's what's happening, okay? So the difference between where our brain thinks that that object should be and where the object is actually, that is going to either blur or stutter, okay? So if this difference is big enough, we are going to perceive that as a stutter. So a stutter, when the stutter is smaller, then we call that blur, okay? So I'm exaggerating this, and let's say that this is a motion blur, okay? So what we have to do is we have to reduce the time where we can see the pixels, where we can see the frame. So if we have this, and then black, 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 we are going to perceive that motion as perfect, okay? So our eyes think that the object is moving like this, and the object is actually showing in the right places and then disappearing. We are going to perceive that motion awesome, okay, at that speed. So that's what black frame insertion does. So you don't have more frames, but what happens is that you are reducing the persistence, how long the frame, the pixels, they stay on the screen. So you can see them, you can no longer see them. So if you keep seeing the pixels and the frame, then this distance where the brain thinks that the object should be and where the object actually is, that distance is going to look like a blur. Okay, it's going to blur. So instead of keeping that frame on the screen, disappear that. So that's why black frame insertion improves the motion clarity. So now the other thing we can do, instead of using black frame insertion on or any impulse display, what we can do is we can have a higher frame rate. So now instead of the object looking like this, it's going to look like this. So now we have more information. So now if we move at that speed, we have less blur. So it's all a matter of the speed. So if the object moves slow enough, it doesn't matter the frame rate. If it's a slow enough motion, it's gonna look perfect, because it's gonna be very close to our perfect eye tracking motion, basically. That's it. So there is the reason why the persistence is all that matters is because how long we can see the frames is going to affect the distance, this distance. So what we want is that this distance is like here. So the difference between what our eyes and our brain want and what is actually happening is none, basically. So it doesn't matter if the object does this, appears only where our eyes want the object to be, or we just have more frames and it's like this. So it's like, see? It's like, and it's perfect. So that's why we see it smoothly, because it's like this. See? But if we don't have that fast, then it's like, and this difference, it looks like a blur. Okay? Also, it just sounds ridiculous to me when I see people saying that 30 FPS is a disadvantage on an OLED or a technology that has a faster response time because it looks like a stutter. 30 FPS stutters on any display. Okay, there's no advantage in having a slower gray to gray. So then you see that instead of a stuttering, you see it more like a blur. 30 FPS sucks, no matter what, okay? So that should just disappear from high quality content like movies, okay? But that's it. I'm gonna have a link in the description of the video to an R-Teens video that has an animation, a cool animation explaining this. And they are just talking about black frame insertion, I think, and how black frame insertion improves the motion clarity, which is basically by doing this, disappearing the frame. But I think it might illustrate better than what I'm trying to do with my hands. But I just wanted to make this video because looking at this, FW900 on eBay, $4,500, I was like, this is ridiculous, man. This is just legendary territory. And I understand this is like a piece of technology that you can put on a museum or something, but it's not that old. It's like from 2003, I believe. So I think that there is this myth that CRTs are, of course, they are extinct, and we will never again get that motion clarity. So they are gone forever. So you need to pay $4,500 now before they are completely gone. No, not at all. So if a CRT has 4 milliseconds of persistence or 1 millisecond of persistence, and you get a sample and hold display, for example, for 1 millisecond you would need a 1000 Hertz display, it's going to look as clear in motion as a CRT. Or if you have a display that has black frame insertion or backlight strobing, and the pixel visibility time is 1 millisecond, it's going to look as clear as a CRT. If there are no other limitations like gray to gray, the responsiveness of the pixels is going to look as good. So yeah, that's what I wanted to explain. Let me know if it's now a little bit more clear. If you have that explanation a little bit more clear. I've talked a lot about motion clarity, but I've never try to explain why persistence is all that matters, because it's difficult. I don't know how to do, you know, with my hands. It's tough, but that's just what happens. It's the way our eyes think, or the way our eyes and our brain are expecting the object to be, and the object is not there because it's doing this. Okay, so if the object was doing this fast enough, so if we have enough frames and then the speed is not as fast, then there's no difference. So instead of looking like this, there's gonna be no difference. It's gonna be like this. So the closest we have the real frame, the closest we have the display refreshing with our eye tracking at a given speed, the less motion blur you're going to have. So if the object moves slower, there's less motion blur than if the object moves faster. Okay, so yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions if you have any questions, and also if you would pay $4,500 for a 2003 display. I think that is just absolutely ridiculous. Even if I was multi-millionaire, I would not pay that. That's just insane. And also, this doesn't look good at all. This looks washed out. Look at that screen. It doesn't look good. I'm sorry. I love CRTs and I would love to have this monitor, but you cannot charge $4,500 for a monitor that looks like this. I'm sorry. And no, it's just not good. This is terrible. This looks like crap, to be honest. I know it is, you know, it's a light room, so you would need to have the lights off, because the CRT screen is going to light up with the lighting environment. But yeah, I mean, it's just not good enough, man. I'm sorry. This is just lunacy. Nobody should be paying $4,500 for this display like that old. I would pay for this display $300. I know nobody's gonna sell it to me for that because they are just too famous and whatever, but this is just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions, and if you have any questions.